and I'm not an expert on the artificial intelligence parts of this program because that has been developed by my colleague Kai Droger, who's in Germany. He does have his own YouTube videos covering some of these AI aspects, and there is one older video in English and currently a newer one in German. So let's just have a look at how I set my project up. I've got a new project called Dorian Gray, and to aid the AI analysis, you really do need to fill in a project memo. So everything above the hash line, so this top few lines of code is sent along to the AI to help the analysis work better. So I filled in the research topic, questions and objectives. Basically, I'm looking at moral decay and the superficial nature of social judgments. My methodology, it's fairly simplistic here, but just as a trial process, I've typed in thematic analysis. And where's my data coming from? I'm looking at Dorian Gray as the protagonist through a historical fiction book. Everything below the hash marks are personal notes that you can write and will not be sent to the AI. So this is in the project setup. I've got more, so the next step would be to go. I've already loaded a file, the picture of Dorian Gray, and I've obtained this from the Gutenberg project as it's free to be used, and there's the web link for that project. If I was to right click and open that, I could open the URL and show you directly, but no need for now. So now we have to, you notice at the bottom of the screen that AI is disabled. Now we have to enable AI. And okay, so now we need to enable AI. So I'll go to settings, and this is in the lower section, and I have to be careful how far down to go here. Yes, okay. So once I enable AI like that, we have options. I'm using Blabador, which is a free online AI model. It's not as advanced as some models, but it is free, so that's why I'm using it for testing. You have a choice of a range of other models that are listed there, and you'll notice that one is a local model. I'm not familiar with how to set that up, but if you do use OLlama, you can keep, I guess, all your information, and large language models run locally to your area, your site, or your machine. I won't go further down because the next line down is the long API key that I use to access Blabador, and that's not something I would share. So anyway, now that I've enabled AI, I'll click OK. And you'll see at the bottom of the screen, it's got AI starting, and it's going to go through a few processes to prepare the documentation that I have loaded up into QualCoder to use with the AI machine. So I'll have to wait for it to do its thing. It's starting up, it's checking for new documents, it's adding the picture of Dorian Gray to its internal AI memory. This will take some time, depending on how big the text is. I think the whole book of the picture of Dorian Gray is quite long, so this will take quite some time for it to process. So what I'll do is I'll cut here and then jump to when it's loaded in. Okay, so now it's read in that document. It took at least 5 minutes. I didn't time it exactly. So if you have a lot of documents or a lot of large documents for AI to pre-process, it will take some time. So now I'm going to go to coding, code text. Just open up the picture of Dorian Gray so you can see this is the plain text version which I got from the Gutenberg project, and it's quite a large document. One other thing you can do with very large documents, so it's got nearly 500,000 characters, you can chunk it and look through and code in chunks if you're manually coding, because coding a full large text document like this can slow the program down somewhat. Experiment with that, see how you go, and if that's too slow, then I recommend doing this approach of right-clicking on the document and chunking it into smaller chunks to process. Another thing you can do if you have a lot of large documents, particularly if they're chapters in a book, you might want to load each chapter separately into its own text file and code within that chapter. Now, for the purposes of AI coding, I've already created a couple of codes. So I've got one art as beauty, and I've added, oh, I haven't even spelt this correctly. Let me edit the memo. I've added some extra information about what this code is meant. I'll just spell it correctly. So art is beautiful, but useless beyond artistic beauty, and it is an aesthetic approach to life. And the second code I've got is one on hedonism, and again I have a memo. So hedonism is pursuing personal gratification with no regard to consequences, essentially. So the project memo, the overarching project memo and purpose, the wording in the code name, and the memo associated with each code will assist the AI to analyze the text and come back with some results. So we'll start there. I've already got art as beauty highlighted, but it will probably ask me again in a minute. So I'll start the AI search. I'll select art as beauty. I'll send the memo to AI, so that will include that additional information it will use to analyze. There are various options to analyze. So content analysis with coding rules. And I'll probably stick with that for now. So it instructs the AI to follow the coding rules outlined in the code memo. And my code rules could be better, but that's okay for now. And you have got other options. You can have a focus search, which brings back a small number of responses. An open search is more broad, or a content analysis, which is what we're going to use now. So I'll go OK. Oh, we can also filter by selecting a particular text document, or with no filter, all the documents within your project. So once it's pre-processed the data in the local AI machine, it's then going to forward this data to the online Labrador engine using my API key. And again, whatever engine you're using, it will do similar process. It will select probably 10 or so instances that match your code and points of interest. And then once it hits its first initial list of things that it finds, it'll stop and it'll say, do you want to continue and search further? So for now, I'm going to stop the search. And we'll have a look at what we've found here. So for our code, art is beautiful. I love beautiful things that one can touch and handle. Artistic, blah, blah, blah. So that first quote seems reasonable to art is beauty. So I'll right click and mark, oh, not with the new code, I should say, I'll click my art is beauty and mark with this code. Now the AI also creates an interpretation of that text and explains in its own way why it selected that section of test for this code. So I'm going to go yes, I'll keep that as a memo. We can go to the next one. Well, maybe this one sounds interesting. All art is quite useless. Let's read that one. that's really not enough as a code to link to art is beauty, so I won't bother. Go to the next one, which is we live in an age where men treat art as if it were meant to be a form of autobiography. We've lost the abstract sense of beauty. Someday I'll show the world what it is, and for that reason, the world shall never see my portrait of Dorian Gray. Um, I think I shall select most of this. I won't select most of this. I'll select a portion of this and I'll assign it to that code. I'll add this AI interpretation again. Now, let's have a look at hedonism. So if I click on that code, I go from documents back to AI assistance. I'll click on the top button, even though it says art is beauty, we can change that. We'll select hedonism, that's highlighted. All files, we use the same approach with the content analysis approach. Click on OK. Okay, so it's finding some instances that it believes matches the hedonism code. I'll stop it there. So we'll go to this first quote. He felt that what he had brooded on and what he had gone through would sicken or grow mad. Um, so there were sins whose fascination was more in the memory than in the doing of them. Strange triumphs that gratified the pride more than the passions, and gave the intellect a quickened sense of joy, greater than any joy they brought or could ever bring to the senses. It kind of sounds appropriate to hedonism, so I will mark that with the hedonism code, and in fact I will store the AI interpretation. The second one is further down. So these are sickly aims. What's this about? The false ideals of our age. Live your life, basically. Let nothing be lost to you. Be always searching for new sensations. That sounds very hedonistic. Be afraid of nothing. A new hedonism is what our century wants. So yes, that seems reasonable. We'll link that to hedonism. And again, we'll add the memo, the AI developed memo. You can always change that memo, trim it back, or overwrite it as you choose. So that's one way of using AI, whether you're using the content analysis approach or some other approaches. So if we go to AI, that's there. We've got the setup settings, setup wizard settings, rebuilding internal memory if there's a problem there, updating the project memo, editing the prompt library. This is not an expert area for me to explain, as I am not that familiar with how to develop prompt libraries or prompts. But there are ways that you can describe and then create the text for your prompt that can be sent to the AI to make it work more suitably for your needs. And I can't explain a lot about that because that's not my area of expertise. But we can do general chat, which is kind of where we are here. Let's have a general question and we'll ask it, so a new question perhaps, a new general chat. There's various chat options here. Hopefully that will be seen on the screen. And I'm going to say, what is the picture of Dorian Gray about? It's a very general question, and we'll just ask AI to respond to that. And so we get a plot summary, key themes, and conclusion about the book. And what else do we have? So we have a new code analysis chat. We could try that. Let's try hedonism as a code analysis chart and see what that comes up with. So it is describing hedonism as a self-justifying philosophy and a psychological mechanism for avoiding moral accountability. Then links it into the book about Dorian and his transgressions. And then it sort of goes along further to say that there's two quotes that illustrate how the code of hedonism operates. And it highlights the quotes that it has highlighted within the text earlier. So I guess that's my brief overview of the artificial intelligence aspects of the program. Again, I'm not an expert on the artificial intelligence approach, but it is kind of useful to help highlight text within your documents or even as a general chat to assist your interpretation of what you're finding. So I've uploaded a poem called Ozymandias by Percy Shelley. And as you can see, I've already coded it with, that's the underlining there. Underlining there, it shows it's been coded. And I was going to show a couple of things in the code text section with some menu options that are not readily visible. I've got a broken statue, which I've highlighted with one code. And you can see there's a slight overlap at one point with the subsequent code, which I've marked as commanding presence, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command. And later on, I've done a few more codes. I've got the word powerful, which starts with and on the pedestal and ends with look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. So that entire section, if I click on here and press O to overlap, to cycle through the overlapping codes, you can see that all of that yellow is powerful and that there is a section there which overlaps called commanding presence. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. So there's some proximities and there's some overlaps with these codes and an inclusion. So that code is included within the other codes there. Now what I wanted to show on this page before I went too far is this text box where you can search through the text. You can right click to do additional modifications. So I can search for the word the, and there's 11 instances found here. However, I could set this up so that not 3 characters but 5 characters is the default start for when you search. So right click, I can automatically search for 5 or more characters. So the won't be enough to trigger it. There would be, and what else is this? 5 characters long. Stone. There's one instance of stone. So that's one thing that's might be of use to you. Another one is this automatic text coding with exact text. So I could automatically code all the words, all the 11 these. So we have 11 instances of V throughout the text, and I could automatically code all those to a code. I'll add a new code and call it a test code. So, whoops, we'll select test code. Automatically apply that to the word the within this document, and that's marked there. Now, there are other options with this particular button, so I'm going to undo what I just did. And right click on the button. This is the only button where you have a right click option. You don't have right clicks on the other ones. We'll match the the first match in the file, for example, instead of all matches in the file. And we can just do the first match of the word the. In this document. And you see it matches the first instance there. Undo that. And similarly, we can also do the last match. The default position is all matches in a file. That's if we have put the star beside that. So first thing I should do is undo. Well, it didn't work very well, I should say. Let's just check the options. So it's the last match in the file. And interestingly enough, this doesn't actually work correctly for that last match in the file. It should have highlighted the last word the there. So there's an error in the coding that I'll need to fix. However, the first match, and if we change it, oh, cancel, and if we change this to all matches in file, this will work. So I'll undo that. And now we're back to where we were before, where we've got nearby codes and matching code and overlapping codes. But I might, and then we'll go to reports, and I'm going to go to code relations. We could, that's the only document that's coded, but I'll enforce that by saying we'll pick that document only. We'll select all the codes in the code tree, and we'll calculate the relations. Let's move these around a bit. Which ones did I pick? Right, so I picked a few there. Okay, so what this is showing is where the codes are in close proximity and where they are not. With a lot of extra information at the end if you want to have the who did the coding, this is a database entry for the specific coding, memos if memos are attached for the first code or the second code. So if we look at our documents, we'll go back to here. We've got this one here, which is broken statue, and right next to it we have got a commanding presence. So broken statue and commanding presence, there's proximity where they're neighboring to one another, and there's also overlap. So the 1 and the 2, these represent the code IDs, so that's broken statue. So this is the overlap. The broken statue comes first, and then commanding presence follows after. The overlap starts at position 50 and continues up to this number. And where both codes overlap exactly, it starts from positions 171 to 172. So I'll just go back to the document there. There's a little overlap here, so it starts at 50. I think that might be 50 and continues up to the end. And if I press, I think it's Control $, no? To get the right, which one is it? Oh yes, it's okay. So to get character positions, I press Shift and exclamation mark. So if I go here, Shift exclamation mark, that's character position 171. and next to it will be character position 172. That's where the overlap lies, and so that matches around here. The overlap across the two codes starts at position 50 and finishes at position 229. I'll just do that slightly shorter, should go up one. It starts at position 50 and goes to here, position 229. So that's what that represents there. Many of them are proximity, so there's a distance between the codes, so commanding presence and broken statue. And here, there's quite a distance between the two, so there's no text overlap before or after. And so there's not much detail given on that one, but you can have a look at, so broken statue is 50 to 172. So broken statue is that color, so around here would be 172. Just do the shift exclamation mark, 172 there. And commanding presence. This coding of commanding presence is much larger and starts as 424 in the document, which is down here. So I'll just click at the start of my name, shift exclamation mark, character 424. So the distance between that broken statue and that coding is, oops, is 252 characters distance. Now there's also one where there's an inclusion. So we've got powerful, which goes from 383 to 504, and commanding presence, which is 424 to 461. So commanding presence is included within the powerful code. Commanding presence is included within the powerful code. So we'll just do that overlap to just show that. Click there to show that there. Right, so that's one thing. And you can do summary statistics of these codes. So this will add up all of the two codes of interest, I suppose you call it, and it'll do the counts of how many of the two are present. And of course, if there's distances or overlaps, it'll show that in these figures underneath with the character distances and so on. So the lower the median, or the lower the mean, if you prefer to use that, the closer the two codes across all the codings will be. And this can be shown in a graph or box plot. I don't know, this will show up now. I'm hoping it will, depending. I'll just change my screen sharing so I can show you all of that. Okay, so this is the box plots of the two codes, sort of the summary of the similarities and differences. So powerful and broken statue, there's quite a distance between the two codings. There's probably only one coding of pair of those. And with these others, there's more than one coding pair that can be compared. And these are sort of the similarities and differences. So some people might find that useful for their analyses. So now I'll just share again and select the right screen. Okay, so that's that. Now, these proximities and distances, this is something that some people can make use of. They can be exported in various ways to, let's highlight over that, CSV file or Excel. And they can also be looked at in the code relations report or code co-occurrence report. So this is an easier way of looking at some of those code relations. So there's a crossover or a proximity if it's just aligned one code right next to the next code between broken statue and commanding presence. I'll click on that and it'll show in the right hand side here where the two codes join or overlap. So the green is the overlap. One color is one and one color is the other code. And similarly for the other between powerful and commanding presence, we have got this inclusion where my name is Ozymandias, King of Kings is included within the first code, which is powerful. As you can see, the differences, powerful starts from 383 to 504, which is all of that. And commanding presence is smaller, 424 to 461, which is that there. Okay, these also can be exported to a file to do more analyses with those. Right, I think that's the main things I wanted to show. Thank you. Let's do last match and file with the word the, Ozymandias. Oops, I did something wrong there.